The children's screams and laughter filled the streets, crested by the sun that descended on the horizon to plunge into the sea and release its own exhaustion. Sarah mended nets at the door of her house with little zest at her breath, wrapped in the old sheet that she wore around her neck, while Isis, her 12-year-old younger sister, plaited her hair. Between the children's games and the deeper voices of the adults at the end of another blazing day in the small fishing village, the shrill cry of a child pointing at the sky wasn't noticed by many. Fast, too fast, a fireball with flames that extended on a tail that ripped the skies, dropped heavily, creating a crater of light, replicating the sunset, not far from the village, now silent with astonishment and fear. Dust, sand and smoke rose to the skies, covering the sunset and submerging everything around it in a suffocating wave. It was with tears in her eyes that Sarah saw the shadow rising from the glare of the crater. First, something misshapen, monstrous, a demon from heaven, a shadow as tall as a tree, projected in smoke and dust, twisting to rise and take a winged humanoid shape. Stumbling, falling even a few times, almost disappearing when it ceased to be projected on the particles that danced in the air, the being approached the end of the small village. Not moving, not knowing what to do, not having will of their own, perhaps, who knows, the inhabitants of the peaceful fishing village saw the angel walking across the streets. The long white wings, immaculated in contrast with their dusty bodies, with their tips dragging on the ground, leaving two lines that, even not being it, were the guides for those who followed him. The fireball, the explosion, a wave of dust and smoke that took their breath away at the end of that afternoon, or the being that crossed the village, nothing was more horrible to see than the children who, as hypnotized, followed the angel. To Sarah, the terror was only revealed when her own sister tried to take her child from her arms. Refusing to let him go, she held him tighter, even with the boy bracing and wrestling for her to let him go. Isis stiffed, looked at her sister for a moment, and then she punched her with an almost supernatural force, pulling the baby out of her arms. Long minutes passed until the crowd of weeping women, angry men, and disorientated teenagers followed in pursuit of the children that they lost, leaving the village into the beach and dunes that led to the great cliff, on top of which, in the purity of their childhood, the children stared at the angel who was balancing on the edge of the precipice. Some screamed, others ran across the dunes in the desperate attempt to reach the hill that led to the cliff. But everyone stopped. Everyone was silent and united, all of them hold their breath when the angel, followed by the children who, one by one, disappeared from the view of those watching. Parents dropped to the ground on their knees, shouting desperate to the skies, tormented by the pain of the loss and terror of what they saw. But then the winged being reappeared, his great wings illuminated by the last glimmers of the sun that disappeared into the sea. Ascending to the kingdom from where he had just fallen, he rose to the skies, taking with him all those children, who even without wings flew, entering the clouds to never be seen again.